Okay, in this one I'm going to look at another shot. So over here on the right we can see the characters and what this particular clip is. Very simple. The recorder clip is just this section down here, so the actual recording only goes from here to here, and so that's all we're going to look at. This particular one, we've got a main character as always, we've got the sunlight as always, we've got Sam and Mrs. B as the two characters. We've also got the suitcase, which is the thing that gets moved. We've got a second light on it. I just put a second one on it just to get it brighter and a bit more contrasty to make it look like a bright sunny morning. And the virtual camera, which is a single positioned camera. So if I go game object, align view to selected, it's going to show me. Now the field of view, there's actually how much you focus in on. That's why these two look a little bit different. If you go into the inspector, you've got this field of view value which you can change, and it changes how much. I'm going to undo, Control Z, and you can see it's constraining how much, sort of like zooming in, but instead of moving the camera forward towards it, it's making the camera angle narrower, and so you can control how much to actually look at. You can actually do it for the view as well, but it's a little bit harder. But anyway, so that's the virtual camera. So let's have a look at the timeline and the animation tracks. The first one is a recording. I actually took a video of myself just pulling the bag up, and if I just hide the bag just for a moment, so I can click on the object here. If I go over to the inspector and untick this box up in the corner here, the bag disappears, and so you can just see his movements. So I just recorded this one. I think I did that with deep motion again. Took a video of myself doing it. Did some editing just to get rid of any leg movement or anything like that. But you can see his hands pulling back. So if I undo to get the bag back, and so that's what this recording does. Just moves his hands back. The second one is for Mrs. B, and overall you can click this little eye to mute, and so overall that's what the default recording is. And again, I just did it of character, and you can see put a hand to the face and took the hand down, and that's all that's going on there. This one, I wanted the head to lift up a little bit more because it's meant to be sort of looking at Sam, and so I dropped in a head turn animation script that I've got, and so you can see the head. If you're just watching her head sort of nod up, this, because if you hold down Control, you can change the slope of the so I was doing Control and left mouse click to adjust that slope, and so it blends. It's got an avatar mask, so if you click on the track and come over here, it's sort of saying, look, only use the head out of this animation turn, it's not going to do anything else, and so it's only overriding the head position, and then the blend goes back to the underlying track. One thing I probably haven't mentioned is when you create these ones, make sure you set the track offsets to scene offsets, and what that does is it takes the position of the character and then adds the animation to it. Otherwise it'll override the position of the character and send it back to 0, 0, because most animation clips are created at position 0, 0, which you don't generally want. And so track offsets apply scene offsets is what you generally want. What it used to do is it just try and guess, and that didn't work out very well. So now you can control whether to use the character's position and do everything relative to that, or to do it in absolute terms, whatever the animation says, which for position is pretty bad because it will send it back to 0, 0 wherever 0, 0 is in the project. Okay, what else we got here? We got the suitcase. It's also animated, and you might notice there's actually 2 points where it animates the position of the suitcase. And what I basically did was I dragged it along looking at when Sam's arms are moving. You might notice his hands aren't actually on it, but because of the angle of the camera you can't really see the fact that they're not near each other, and so it works. All we've got to do is make it look good. It doesn't actually have to be accurate. If it looks good, it is good. And so what I did was I dragged this along to this position, hit the record button, positioned the suitcase, and to force it to do something, sometimes I'll move it around and then put it back exactly where it was, but it'll let you record a value here. The top dot represents the whole column. If you select that, it'll select everything in the column. But the actual data points, we've only got one property here, so it's basically the same thing. And then what I then did, so I'd hit the record button, move this around, and then I'd move it to the other position and move it again up to get a relative positioning of the hands, and then you turn off the record button, and that's what creates this effect that the suitcase, if you get closer, oops, you can actually see that, you know, I've just tried to time them to move together, but they're not actually touching each other. It just happens to be they're both moving at the same time, and that's how I create the effect of looking like it's getting lifted up. The storyboard, this is the speech bubble and the writing. So if you look at it in Inspector, I hacked a copy of the default one so that you can actually put this text in, and I just manually break it so it's about 3 lines the same length. Speech 11 means that the little tail is going to go up. 12 would be straight up, so 11 is up and a bit to the left. If we go to the game one, you can see it's up and a little bit to the left, so it's sort of like 11 o'clock. It's where this little tail is pointing. Okay, what else we got in here? We've got the recorder track as always, so this is the thing that actually generates a video file. I use very consistent numbering of episode, location, shot for all the video clips. It makes it easy to assemble a final episode out of them. Just stick them all off in the standard directory number. The talking clip, yes, this is a custom script I built, and it basically controls, in this case, Mrs. B's mouth. So rather than trying to hand animate it or try and record myself to animate just moving the mouth, what you can do is type in some text. It has a go at trying to pick out the visemes out of it, and it just does some simple mouth smoothing. So it looks like she's talking. It's not exactly following it, but it's roughly the same sort of length. This is long, these would be long, and it has a go at guessing the vowel sounds. And that is the end of the timeline. So we've got a couple of examples of videos converted into animation clips. I used a service called Dmotion. We've got the suitcase, just getting in, hitting record, and just moving it. And so this is still an animation clip, but an animation track. But instead of dropping in an animation clip, I actually just recorded values directly in it to move it from between the two positions. There's no animation clip like these other ones. An animation clip is just a file with the animation stored in it. In this case, I've just stored the values directly in the timeline. There is no animation clip file created. It's just straight in the timeline, hard-coded these particular properties, which if I double-click was position. So simple ones, you just do it this way. And then we've got the speech bubble that goes over the top to the bottom here, the recorder which creates a video file, and a talking clip which controls her mouth to make it look like she's talking. And so the purpose for showing all of this, just trying to show how to put some different scenes together and some little techniques. Hopefully